Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Veronica Falls album, Waiting for Something to Happen. Veronica Falls is a nice little pop outfit from the UK. Their debut LP caught my attention back in 2011 despite the band's style. Pretty breezy, pretty light. But I found Veronica Falls' music to be more like a breeze in the midst of January with kind of a frosty bite to it. Just the perfect amount of reverb on the guitars that they were playing that had a nice twangy tone to them. Some very ambitious and chilly boy-girl vocal harmonies, and on top of that just a touch of English reservation. Plus I was impressed with the influences that these guys were able to pull together. Not only were there some sounds coming from that old Jangle pop style, maybe a little bit of old school Indian garage rock, but there were definitely some moments that reminded me of the Velvet Underground, the Mamas and the Papas. The songs on this LP were straightforward and featured a lot of earworm choruses, and some of the tracks came off maybe a little sour, kind of morbid, like the song Love in a Graveyard, or the track The Fountain. There were tracks like Beachy Head as well, which were pretty noisy, kind of abrasive, and even though I really liked what Veronica Falls had to offer on this new LP, I wasn't really sure if these guys had the will or the drive or the chops to progress what they were doing here further. I guess what I ended up expecting with this new LP was just not that much change at all, just another heap of tracks that were endearing but also kind of sour and dark at times too. I'm not even really sure if I got that. To me, the very chilly and wintry feel of the debut album is gone. The morbid feel of the debut album has kind of disappeared as well. And the noisier and stranger moments like Bleachy Head don't really seem to be on here as well. I feel like Veronica Falls has kind of stripped away all of these elements that I feel like gave them character and have settled down a little bit into this kind of one homogenous style that is pretty much some quaint, polite indie rock and pop with youthful boy-girl vocal harmonies. I'm not really trying to sell this record as a complete departure or anything like that though. Veronica Falls still sounds like Veronica Falls. I just feel like they've kind of pruned the tree a little bit and have tried to drum together a collection of songs that are just a bit more uniform, I suppose. And I could appreciate that a band would want to make an album that feels a little bit more focused, but I don't really think Veronica Falls was all that adventurous to begin with. I mean, if anything was going to make their next LP exciting, it should have been more adventure. Because there are moments on this LP where the lack of adventure sonically and when it comes to songwriting too can get pretty disheartening. Like the songs Teenage, Waiting for Something to Happen, and Everybody's Changing, where you have moments like, listen to the music you like, what do I care, what's your excuse, baby? There's so many moments on this record where I kind of feel like Veronica Falls is recycling chord progressions, and the melodies over them feel so similar that I feel like I could sing the melody from one song over another song. The only difference between a lot of these tracks is that these chord progressions are kind of worked out into different keys. Don't get me wrong, I still like a lot of these tunes. I feel like Veronica Falls still brings that really cool energy, especially on a track like Teenage. There are just too many songs on this record to me that sort of mirror each other in ways that make me maybe slightly annoyed or just kind of bored. However, there are moments on this record where Veronica Falls does try to push themselves outside of their comfort zone a little bit and add some extra bits of personality, but maybe with not as much success as on their debut. Like the song Shooting Star, which is one of the most quiet moments on this entire LP. It kind of romps around very softly, very slowly, but it feels kind of drab and boring to me, honestly. My Heartbeats, though, is one of the first big singles to drop from this new LP, and one of my favorite moments on here. The song really propels itself, really pushes itself, has a nice driving beat to it, and the guitars just sound so big. It's really one of the bigger tracks that Veronica Falls has ever put together. Sure, some of the lyrics on this track are kind of corny about dreaming together and so on and so forth, but that sweet sentiment is still there and still feeling very sincere and still feeling very real, and it kind of, you know, in my opinion, gives the song a pass because I get kind of sucked into this very, for me anyway, very real emotion. The song Everybody's Changing, I love the sentiment to that track too, which kind of seems to be talking about looking back on your past, your youth. Even though the songwriting, melody-wise and chord-wise, is very basic, it's very simple, the message behind the song, which is about just kind of accepting change in your personal life, I mean, it just hits kind of close to home for me. Not to say that a message necessarily makes a song, but a band has to have a certain kind of personality and sincerity to make a message like this go over well, and that's a kind of power that Veronica Falls has. And the song Falling Out is one of the softer ones on here. I think goes over really well and has some of the better lyrics on the entire LP, talking about how every seed is a flower, every second's an hour. It's songs like these that have some pretty good lyrics, a fresher energy to them that actually feel new to me when it comes to Veronica Falls writing new material. In a lot of ways, I kind of feel like this sophomore album is, again, a homogenized version of their debut LP. And I wished that on this album, instead, they spread out a little bit more. And even though I am let down by the subtraction of variety slightly on this new album, I do think Veronica Falls, for the most part, wrote some decent songs in their usual style. Again, it's just straightforward, lean, clean jangle pop whose appeal is very apparent from first listen. I'm feeling a strong 6 on this new LP. If you've given it a listen, what did you think of it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why? And what do you think I should review next? Anthony Fantano, Veronica Falls, forever.